why I think this podcast and the two of us work, because you use words like hyperbole and I go Google. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. This is day 6, and we're covering Genesis 19, 20, and 21 today.
In Genesis 19, Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. Lot's messed up family is talked about. Genesis 20, Abraham moves to Gerar. And in Genesis 21, Isaac is born and there's a family feud.
Smashing. So, we kick off here, Sodom and Gomorrah. I know, obviously, Booth, you've only been a Christian sort of 18 months-ish. How much did you know much about Sodom and Gomorrah before becoming a Christian? I feel like it's talked about loads in Christian circles.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. It's not at all really talked about in secular circles. It's kind of used as a bit of a metaphor of like just a place of depravity or like things going downhill. I guess like a modern day version would be like San Francisco. Something like that. But yeah, no, it's, just a place where lots of bad things happened, and I had no idea of what was happening or why it was destroyed or anything before becoming Christian.
That's fair enough. Honestly, I hadn't even thought to even ask you that before, so curious. Good to know. Appreciate that, dude.
Love it.
Because obviously yesterday we were touching on the fact that there weren't even 10 righteous people. Now we find out why there weren't 10 righteous people, right? Because just flip me, it's just gross, isn't it, this story, really? I kind of don't want to go into detail of townspeople want to rape 2 male visitors and guys like, take my daughters instead. Like, the whole thing's gross, isn't it, really? Yeah. So unless there's something you particularly wanted to throw in there, I feel like we can just sort of skip forward half a hair.
Yeah, I think I think that bit is very shocking culturally as well. The idea that he was sort of willing to sacrifice his virginal daughters for that. And I read into that a little bit, just sort of the idea that it's a horrible situation, but sort of he was trying to do the best he could in the situation he's put in and stuff. But other than that, like, just very shocking and horrible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, so it's the thing that I take from that is it's kind of like, I don't know, I'll touch on something in a minute here, but the bit that sort of gets mentioned here about Lot's wife turning around, and just the act of turning around and looking back at Sodom and Gomorrah meant she got turned to salt. Seems a little bit harsh, but at the same time, what I sort of take from that is just, we've all screwed up, we've all sinned, but don't let that dictate who you are now. Once you've been able to escape that, don't look back at those days. It's important to learn and move on from those, but don't let them affect who you are today, basically.
Now, I don't know, this is above our pay grade or just mine, but would you say that Lot was sort of saved though? Do you think that Lot's wife, I'm sorry. So, because, if she turns to a pillar of salt, but she's ultimately going to heaven, then it seems a lot less harsh ultimately, right?
I don't know. Like, you can say because she escaped Sodom and Gomorrah that she was saved and righteous. Right. Well, saved, righteous, two different things here, I suppose.
Right.
Because you would assume the same for Lot's 2 daughters. But obviously we get into the next little bit of the story where his 2 daughters get their own father wasted so that they can have sex with him and get pregnant through him, which again is more depravity, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that gives us an insight into why Sodom and Gomorrah had to be destroyed as well, right? Because culturally they've been impacted by these things, and this is stuff that to them is normal, and to us, obviously, we're like, what is going on?
I'm pretty sure even in the day it was what is going on.
You would hope so.
Yeah, seriously. Although one thing that sort of struck me out the back of this was, we often get offended when, fast forwarding, the Israelites are saved from Egypt and they're taking over cities and countries and stuff, and they're told to wipe out entire people, men, women, and children, because they don't want those people affecting the Israelites and their sort of new covenant with God and stuff. Like, seeing this story, it kind of makes me see why, because the level of depravity is obviously filtered all the way down into two virgin daughters here.
Right, right.
And so if these two presumably clean, pure, righteous females are still capable of doing this, it kind of shows just how bad Sodom and Gomorrah and supposedly other places would have been. So
Yeah. I'll add something to that as well, which is that, you know, we talk about, like, you know, the Canaanites being utterly destroyed and whatever, but a lot of people that I've sort of read and watched about this, they say it's more like, you know, how in football or something we'll say like, oh, we absolutely destroyed the opposition or we annihilated. We use words like that. It's meant to be more figurative, because they sort of say, you know, we annihilated the Canaanites or whatever, but also don't breed, don't like marry into them. So that suggests that they weren't all actually destroyed. It was more like they were thrown from their lands. Many of them, I'm sure, were killed, but they were sort of just pushed out. So the influence was there. But when people say it was like a genocide or whatever, you know, a lot of atheists say things like that. I don't think it was. I think it was a big battle when they were using bravado and hyperbole to be like, yeah, we annihilated them. And that, because otherwise, why would you be like, yeah, we just killed them all, but don't marry into them again? Because they'd all be dead. Like, you wouldn't
No,
have
I
that.
hear you. No, that makes sense. Also, I feel like that's one of this is just summed up why I think this podcast and the two of us work, because you use words like hyperbole and I go Google what hyperbole mean. So I think it works.
Hyperbole just means exaggeration. There you go.
Cool.
Just yeah. Sorry about that. I'll try and keep it, you know, dumb it down for.
Appreciate it, mate.
Just kidding, just kidding. But we should definitely actually do some verses from Genesis 19 or 20 or 21. I feel like a lot of what we've said so far has been great, but not directly linked, right? So I was thinking one of the things that I got from Genesis 19, starting there, is the fact that Lot and his two daughters leave Zoar and settle in the mountains because he's afraid to stay in Zoar. And they live in a cave for a while. But he ends up basically where God wanted him to be in the anyway. So it's a similar message to what I was saying about Abraham. I think, like, sometimes we'll resist God's plan for us, even though there are clear signs, but we will eventually get there, and he already knows that ahead of time. And I just think it's hilarious how we sort of stubbornly try and do it our own way for a while and then sort of end up doing what he wants anyway.
Yeah,
You know, I just think
absolutely.
that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense, really. And it's kind of reassuring, isn't it? It's kind of like the Jonah story as well. Like, no, you will end up doing what I tell you to do, just whether you want to do it the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah, he has an unfair advantage, in fairness. He's outside of time, so he can see everything. But yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of his amazing, you know, the amazing things of the God we serve.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I have to add in about the sevens again. That's going to be a theme. You know me with my numbers. He replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. Genesis 21. Now I'm skipping forwards a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is the covenant, right? This is the covenant that's made between.
Yeah, no, I like that. And obviously, I love the fact that there are so many themes throughout the Bible. I'm going to pop back into Genesis 20 here and just refer again to Abraham still trying to, well, not even trying to, succeeding in deceiving kings and people that Sarah is his sister. Now, I did the math here because we're at the time that Isaac's born, which we should touch on too in a second. But at that time, he was 100. So his wife, I'm pretty sure she was 10 years younger than him. So his wife's 90, and he's trying to convince people that she's his sister. She's 90. Like, all right, they live longer, but really?
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need to chat about it.
I agree. It is very odd, and I sort of almost judge the people that believe it at this point. Like, really, you're like hanging around? But I don't know. Maybe they just seem like a sweet old couple of siblings or whatever. You know, as for with Isaac, yeah, let's touch upon that briefly. I have some theories about why they live longer, but that's for another day, I guess. And obviously, we need to wrap it up soon because we haven't got long left for today.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on? I know your thoughts were on that. So, Isaac. This is obviously the big thing in here. That this is the main miracle, and I suppose the conceiving Isaac would have been the big part, but the fact that it came to fruition and he was born is pretty big as well. So,
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we can do more of this in tomorrow's podcast now, just
Absolutely. Well, listen, if you have any questions from today, feel free to visit our Facebook page, Two Brits and a Bible.
Or you can email us at twobritsbible@gmail.com.